come to little kids, and these chemotherapy agents. Now, there's another mechanism here that involves burns. Here are the burns, they're 1, 2, 3, and 4 degree burns. First degree burn is sunburn or less. If the sunburn blisters, it's a second degree burn. Second degree burns remove the outer epithelium, not past the basement membrane layer, so the sensory nerves are still intact. So second degree burns are quite painful. The third degree burn is you burn through the dermis down centrally to the deep fascia, and you burn all of the nerve fibers. So the way, when you get a person coming into the emergency room, the way to tell whether or not it's a second or third degree burn is you take an 18 gauge needle and can you feel this? If they can feel it, it's a second degree burn. If they can't, it's a third degree burn. Fourth degree burns, you don't need to worry about that. Third degree burns are going to wind up with skin grafts. Fourth degree burns, usually amputations. Second degree burns, you can cover them and they'll usually heal with time because the basement membrane is still intact. Okay. When you're looking at the skin, you know, when you hear somebody gets burned over 18% of their body, what does that mean? 18% comes from a scale called the Parkland Rule of Nine, Parkland Hospital in Dallas, the Rule of Nines. And it's percentages based on 9. Your head, in terms of your body surface area, is about 9% of that 2.1%, I mean 2.1 meters squared that I gave you in the nomogram example. Your upper extremity is 9%, so each one is 9%. If you just burn the front part of it, that's 4.5%, right? Each lower extremity is 18%, so if you just burn the anterior part, it's 9%. Burn the whole thing, it's 18%. The front of your thorax is 18%, the back of your thorax is 18%, and your perineum, your private parts, your genitalia, is 1%. So when they say a person is burned over 99% of their body, that's essentially everything but their genitalia. So that's how you get those percentages. Now, there's a whole science to burn therapy. You know, the burn units are, Baptist has probably the best burn unit around. One of the things that kills people is infection that results from loss of the skin. But the thing that usually kills people first is the desiccation, or the amount of fluid loss, because now you've lost your skin. And you can actually calculate the amount of fluid loss over time based on the body's surface area, the percent of the area burned here. If you take the top part there, 25 times the percent burn. So if you have a 50% burn, that's about 750 times the body surface area in meters squared. Well, here we go. Here's 50% burn, 2.1 on that nomogram. You're losing 2.6 liters of fluid every hour. 2,600 cc's of fluid every hour. So you don't have many of those hours in you before you wind up in cardiac arrest because of hypovolemia or shock. Okay, so it's important to get the skin covered and to get fluid replaced as rapidly as possible. Down here is the replacement formula: 4 mils times the percent area burned times this time the kilogram, not the body surface area, but your kilogram. If you apply it to this right here, you're looking at, you're going to give them 17 liters of fluid over a 24-hour period. That is an enormous amount of fluid. Your basal body fluid, to show you how much this is, my basal body, if I'm not taking anything by mouth, and I want to maintain my hydration, I would require about 3 liters of fluid every 24 hours. Yet, in this person who's smaller than I am, would require 5, 6 times that to replace the fluid loss due to the burn. That's how much of a nightmare it is with fluid balance with burn patients. Now, of course, along with fluid balance, you've got a tremendous problem with electrolytes, making sure you've got sodium, potassium, chloride, magnesium, calcium, everything else is where it's within the normal range where it's supposed to be. Oh, yes, ma'am.
Do they correlate, or do you need to know how much they've lost to replenish it because they don't, I mean, soup or?
No, you just calculate this when they come rolling in the door.
Okay.
Notice that you're gonna get 2 large bore IVs in, and you're gonna start pouring on the fluids, okay? And the thing is, you're preventing them from going into shock. That's the thing that kills them, shock. Not the fluid loss per se, it's the ensuing shock, hypovolemic shock. Body mass index, BMI. This is now everybody is, you determine the person's BMI. It used to be when I was going to school, the person was either small, medium, or large framed. And that's how you allowed for their morphology. Now it's you just calculate the BMI based on their height and their weight. And there's a formula here. Now, if you look at me, I'm 6'4", and I weigh 230 pounds. So my BMI is 28. And if you think I'm 6'4", you need to go. So anyway, if your BMI is less than 25, that's what you want. 25 or less, that's ideal. Anywhere from 25 to 30 is considered overweight. Over 30 is obese. Most of the time, they won't do bariatric surgery on you until you're over at least 35. The BMI is at least 35. Probably I see routinely BMIs of 50 and on up because you have quite a few obese folks in this state. A couple of interesting facts here about skin. One of them here is capillary refill. It is said that no cell is greater than 7 microns from a capillary. That's the density of capillaries throughout your body. If I take my finger and I press on the fingernail, I will blanch it. When I release that pressure, it pinks back up. That's capillary refill. It should be less than 2 seconds. The normal capillary refill is less than 2 seconds. If you have a person who is in shock, for example, if they're dehydrated, hypovolemia, some other reason for where their heart is not functioning correctly, then what you wind up with is a delayed capillary refill. So this is something that you'll measure a lot in patients when they come into the ER. You'll make a statement regarding capillary refill. And again, normal is less than 2 seconds. Distribution of nerve endings, we talked about 2-point versus a single point, being able to discriminate them. I don't know why I have versus pain on there, but forget that. The next bullet point there, a Sims-Weinstein filament. So if I'm going to measure, one of the things about diabetics is they get a peripheral neuropathy. They lose the sensation of pain and eventually touch in their, actually the first sensation that's lost is vibration. Touch goes away and then pain goes away, and then they wind up stepping on a nail or something like that. They can't feel it, or poorly fitting shoes or a rock in their shoe, and they wind up with a lesion because they have diabetes, they have poor circulation, and now you wind up with gangrene of the forefoot. So you always want to look at a diabetic. Every time a diabetic comes into your clinic, you need to look at their feet. And you need to document their ability to feel touch, Now, if I'm assessing touch and I'm over here, and I'm doing touch, can you feel that? Can you feel that? I'm more aggressive than if she's doing touch. You know, hers might be like a butterfly, where mine is more like an ogre, right? So what you want to do is you want to equilibrate that, or equalize it. And the way you equalize it is with this thing right here. It's called a Sims-Weinstein filament. And all this is, it's a little piece of monofilament, like fishing line, that's rigid. So what you do is you touch the skin with it until the monofilament bends. And this thing is calculated, there's so many foot-pounds or ergs or whatever the unit of measure is. Shut your eyes, tell me when I touch you.
There.
Yeah.
Yep.
So she can feel it, so that way it doesn't matter if I'm testing her or if she's testing her, it's all the same pressure. This is called a Sims-Weinstein filament. It was, as it said here, invented to test for neural function in leprosy patients in Africa. So anyway, you're going to use this on a patient. Every diabetic patient that comes into the clinic, you're going to be testing this on the soles of their feet to make sure they can still feel sensation. Okay? Absence of hair is called glabrous skin. The palms of your hands, the soles of your feet, the distal portion of your penis and your clitoris. No hair. Otherwise, you have hair all over your body. Because the muscle, the underlying muscle in your face is attached to the dermis, you can move your face, you can move the skin of your face, but you can't move the skin of your forearm. Try it. Put your forearm up there and try to move it. You cannot do it. You cannot do it. Okay? But you can move your face. If you happen to be a horse, your whole body is connected, so that way they can shake their whole body and move all their skin. But in humans, it's only essentially the head that's attached. Okay? Oh, I remember what the versus pain is. Take your elbow, get your elbow out. Take your elbow. Oh, wait a minute. Start right here on your cheek and squeeze it. Ow, that hurts. Pinch it hard. Ow, that hurts, right? That hurts. Now take your elbow here and just squeeze it as bloody hard as you can. It doesn't hurt, not a bit. So you have very few, if any, pain receptors in your elbow, but you do have a density elsewhere in your body. That's good. Erector pili muscles. I think I misspelled erector. I think it's A-R-E. I just noticed that before I came down here. This is not the other erector. This is the goosebump muscles that you see in the skin. Okay? I think that's misspelled. Those muscles are under sympathetic control, and I'll go over that here in just a minute.
I have a question, the second from the last, wrinkled face but not forearm, did you give a term for that?
There's no term. There's no term.
Just a general concept?
It's just yeah. It's just that the underlying muscle of your face is attached to the dermis, and that's why you can do it. The underlying muscle of your forearm has the deep fascia and the superficial fascia or the subcutaneous, and not the skin. So you can't wrinkle your forearm. Okay. If you look at sweat glands, there are different types of sweat glands. There are sebaceous sweat glands, which are these right here, that are attached to hair follicles. These are multilobular glands. They produce an oily fatty substance, triglycerides, free fatty acids, cholesterol. That's what gives the skin its greasy character, versus the single tubular glands that are sweat glands that you see here. These are not branched, they're single tubular. These things are going to produce water and sodium chloride and some other electrolytes, but that's predominant. Sodium chloride and water. You have specialized glands. These are called apocrine glands. Apocrine means that a part of the cell is extruded. Eccrine glands, like the sweat glands, the cell is intact. It just loses the electrolytes and fluid through the cell membrane. In apocrine glands, parts of the cell membrane break off and go with it. It's more chunky and viscous than eccrine type glands. They're present in the axillary regions. They're around the areola. They're called Montgomery glands in the areola, help with lubrication during suckling. There are several modified glands. The breast itself is just a modified sweat gland. That's really all it is. And you'll see it, its structure when we get there in a few weeks. You have three different types of glands in the eyelid. There's the glands of Mahl that I have written here. There's the glands of Zeiss. There's the gland of Meibomian glands. You don't need to, just realize there are a whole bunch of glands in here that release oily substances to help lubrication. They actually help keep the water from the lacrimal gland adhering to the globe. So they have different functions. Of course, they can all go bad, and that's what you'll encounter a lot clinically. The glands of the auditory canal produce cerumen, the earwax, which is good stuff. Has an antibacterial product. The problem with cerumen is that bugs, when they go in there, a lot of them get stuck in there, stuck in the cerumen, or a roach can go that way, but it can't back up. So when you get roaches in the ear, they can't back themselves out of it. You got to go get them out. Very easy to get roaches out of the ear. You just turn the patient over and fill the ear up with lidocaine, and that's to kill the roach. You can also use mineral oil. That'll suffocate the roach. Don't ever try to get a live roach out because they'll claw and scratch and infect it. So kill the thing with either lidocaine or mineral oil, and then when you do that, then you can reach in there and pluck them out. Don't ever show it to the patient, though. I did that one time. I pulled this roach out, and I said, "Oh, look at this!" And she threw up all over it. Some people have different sensitivities. So, here are a couple of glands that went bad. Here's a nice big old sebaceous type cyst. That thing is filled with that fatty acid. If you pop that thing, it'll be cheesy. Stuff comes out of it. It's kind of cool. This right here is this is a sty, or it's also called a hordeolum. Hordeol, hordeolum. Okay? There are different types of hordeolums, and we'll get to that later on. What it is, though, is it's just a infected gland of Mahl or Zeiss or Meibomian. Up here is a boil. Now that you're in PA school, you're all grown up. Boils are called furuncles. Furuncles. That's the name of a boil. I never want to hear you say boil. It's a furuncle. You get a whole bunch of furuncles there together. That forms a carbuncle. And these things, when you pop these things, they can be under a lot of pressure. You want to make sure that you got your hand over them, or you're not in the line of fire, because they will shoot and they stink. All of it. So make sure you're prepared for it. Make sure the patient's prepared for it. Any questions about the incising and draining furuncles and carbuncles? You're going to be doing that a lot your clinical year.
You're going to be Dr. Pimple Popper, aren't you? That's the little...
Yeah.
They're smelly though.
All right, so that's the end of that. Any questions on I'm not finding
Good idea. Every 4 hours? Every 4 hours. Every hour. So,
Well, yours are better than mine.
I'm just like,
So it should like.
I'm talking about the same.
Okay, well.
Because I don't want.
I know, I'm like, I have to take
The first time I was like, I don't see a save button. I was like, oh,
No, I don't want
X,
your
it
one
looks
piece.
like,
I'm
do you
not
want
gonna
to
be that
save?
girl.
And it didn't pop
That's
up.
your, yeah. And then you were like freaking out.
So, but yeah, no, it's never.
Sorry, I love
It's always
TikTok.
saved.
Thank you.
You can also.
Yeah, you can tell it to go somewhere else. I found out also. Yeah, you can make it go on your computer and say. Hey,
But I was thinking, you can also record it.
what? Oh, yeah.
So that doesn't. This slide.
Were you focused? I'm so focused.